we are going to be talking about toy rotation today. If you're new here, I am doing a bit of a Montessori inspired living series, and that's because I am learning so much more about the Montessori methods and how to incorporate it with our child and our family. It has been amazing for us, so I wanted to continue to share as I learn, and that's kind of what this series is all about. This does not mean that I am a professional, and I definitely don't know it all. I am learning as I go and sharing as I do that. If you are excited about Montessori and you want to continue learning alongside of me, make sure that you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Recently, I did our Montessori-inspired playroom tour, and I did mention that we do toy rotation. And so I told you guys this video was coming as far as how we do toy rotation and then showing you the organization behind where we have that space in our home. I do want to hit on a few things before I go into showing everybody how we do our toy rotation, because I will be showing you the space and all of the organization, so that will be coming in just a little bit. But I first want to talk about what is toy rotation. This is a very common Montessori practice as kids typically lose interest in things. The idea behind it is that you only have out a certain amount of toys or materials. Through your own observation of your child, you're going to indicate what toys that child might be losing some interest in. Once you've pinpointed those certain toys, if they ever do come up, you would then take that toy out of rotation, put it away in a stored area, and then you're going to bring out a new toy into that same spot. So it's not necessarily a brand new toy. You're not buying toys all of the time for the child. You're just taking some out of storage and putting those that they've lost interest in into storage. To the child, this toy is brand new, and it's like they've never seen it before. They will interact with it probably most when you first put it out, and truthfully, I feel like it's helped a lot with keeping my child engaged and wanting to explore the activities. Hello?
Hello.
Hi. Had to make plans with my grandma. I'm back. So the 5 key areas of the learning environment within Montessori is practical life, sensorial, language, mathematics, and culture. So you'll want to briefly consider that when you're collecting materials or toys for your child. For me, just knowing the categories and the kinds of materials that really help children learn and explore helps me to know how to organize my toy storage area. So I'm going to show you guys now the whole organization that we have in our home and the space that it's all in, just so you can get a feel for the way that we do it. You will notice when I am showing you everything that I don't necessarily have bins that are categorized with those 5 labels, but it's the categories that make sense to me, and I just know that certain areas are still being taken care of within those items. So after I show you guys everything that I've done in our toy storage area and how I organize it, I'll come back and tell you guys a little bit more about those 5 categories of Montessori and just go a little bit more in depth with that. Getting more details on those categories can sometimes help with knowing what you want to get as far as materials that might fit under those categories, or what kind of activities that you want to introduce to your child that might align as well. But for now, I'm gonna head right into showing you how we organize our toy storage space. So this is the closet that we store all of the toys that are not currently in rotation. So starting on the bottom, I have this big bin that I have a bunch of academic things inside of. So it's got games, activities, and then above that I have some nap mats. Those are just extras because I've done home daycare. And then over here, I actually have been saving the different colors of these Happy Baby Puffs, and it's because I figure one day I might figure out some kind of Montessori activity to make with that. Up here I have a bin of stuffed animals, and so all of the ones underneath this stuff, stuffed animals. This is obviously a big bag of balls for a ball pit, and this is the ball pit itself. So you can kind of just stuff it into this little bag, and then it just like pops out into a ball pit. This is something that is really good for when kids are walking. So this is a push toy. Coming up to this middle section, that's kind of where I get a little bit more detailed with how I'm organizing. And so right here I have this first bin. It's called sorting, stacking, hands-eye. So hands-eye coordination is what that's meaning there. And so this is kind of just like things that I've been able to kind of categorize a little bit together. So there's not this like crazy in-depth organization going on here. It's just what I figured made more sense. And so that's kind of what I would suggest for your home if you're going to be doing this, to just do what makes most sense for you and your family. And what I find is that a lot of these types of toys sometimes are also math related. Even early math concepts, even though they're not realizing that's what they're learning necessarily. But again, I don't really, you know, put them academically into these bins because my son is young. So right now I'm just doing the things that he works with, and for me it just helps me to know what I'm putting out. And in the back here I have a bin of balls that I'm not using, so I always have a different set of balls out, and a lot of the time I like them to be more sensorial and not just like a plain ball, and sometimes I do like that. So this one, like, you know, can twist and turn all the pieces, so I try to do a lot of that because I just feel like it mixes it up and it's kind of fitting into that sensorial area. On this side, I have mostly language, and even this bin has turned into language, and sometimes can be a little random, but right now all together this is all language. This is our Bali animals that we have. They are so much more realistic than you would find in normal play animals. So these are the extras I don't have out right now. Right now I put out the safari animals, and so this is just those extras, and that obviously works on language. You can see too, like zoology, right? That's kind of a category of culture. And so that kind of fits into that realm of an academic area. So again, like a lot of the things that I am placing in certain bins have multiple purposes, I would say. I have our barn here, again, trucks and puppets. So just all the things that would work on language, help them talk. They'll use characters to talk to one another and whatnot. So that is what I have here. At the top here, I have this music bin on the side. I had to do a whole bin for music, but I think that rotating out a different instrument every once in a while really keeps it exciting to just create that noise and figure out what different tools make all kinds of different sounds. So that's just our music sound kind of area. And then our building, so all of this, you know, building blocks, I have magnetic tiles in here, so those are buildable things. This is honestly kind of random. Like, this is for cars to go down, you know, like a kind of like a tracker. I've got one of those where you can hit the balls and they go down, another little toy on the side where they can pull it, you know, that's kind of helpful for when they're walking, and it follows you and does fun things. So that's kind of a more random, like, big toy area. I don't have this categorized. It's just like wouldn't fit inside of bins, so they're kind of on the side here. At the very top in the corner here, there is just some extra boxes and bins and just things. They're not toys necessarily, but they're just like trays to put activities and toys on. And at the very top there, I also have some extra puzzles. Again, I have everything categorized pretty simple and just for things that would make sense to me. So I would just do the same and just keep in mind the areas of Montessori materials, how they're categorized, and then kind of work that into the toys you have and what would make the most sense as far as how you then will do a whole organizational closet of the toys that are not in rotation. So once those items out there become not as used, I will come in here and switch it out for something. And a lot of the time, if it's like a building type of toy that they have lost interest in, I will take those blocks in here and then switch them out for a different type. So if the building blocks, like the wooden ones, weren't very interesting anymore, I'll take them in and then switch them out for the magnetic tiles so that they're always having an opportunity to build, but just with a different type of material. So that is kind of one of the reasons I have them sorted like this, because I always want to have something out for language, and I always want to have something out for hands-eye coordination, and so kind of the idea is this is what I will switch in and out with those toys that are losing interest with the kids. And so it always feels to them like there's something new when there's not. It's just something that has been put back out and has been away for a while. As you can see, and as I've mentioned, I am doing my toy storage as far as what makes sense to me. So if you guys want to adjust yours differently, have at it. But for me, this is just what makes sense in my mind in order to rotate toys out according to each section of learning. Speaking of those categories, I'm going to talk a little bit on those 5 categories and the kinds of things that you can do for each, or what each one really means. I will mention that practical life is one that we are practicing around our home, and I don't necessarily have an area of toys to rotate out, because a lot of the things for practical life that you will do is more hands-on around your home. It can be care of self, care of environment, teaching them manners, and even the control of movement. So practical life, I feel like there's definitely some toys that maybe geared to that direction, but a lot of the other things that we do for that category of Montessori are things like helping with the laundry and inviting them to, not making them, unloading the dishwasher, stuff like that. My child was taking the clothes out of the washer and then putting it into the dryer at 11 months old, and he wanted to. Like, I just invited him because he looked very curious, and he got it. Like, he was just like putting 2 and 2 together. He also loves to help unload the dishwasher, another practical life skill. The important thing is you never want to force your child to do these things. You just want to invite them in when they seem very interested. I'm sure there are plenty of activities out there to help with that practical life area, but for us, we mostly just do this around the home. We don't necessarily have toys in rotation for this. The next one is sensorial. Obviously, it's the 5 senses: sight, touch, smell, hearing. Everything that you can do that engages the senses, that would be considered sensorial. I do have toys in rotation that are specifically for sensory, and I feel like this is super important to engage with, so that's definitely something that we have in our toy storage. You do notice, right, that I didn't have a label saying sensorial, but a lot of the things that the kids are doing to manipulate with hands-eye coordination, that section that I had, or just the music even, right? I have a music bin, and all of those things, they are pertaining to sensory. I just kind of categorize them down differently. In general, this is just a great category to explore as far as activities and materials for your child. Language is pretty self-explanatory. This is areas where it helps them to practice with talking. Kids are encouraged to practice language in a lot of materials and toys. If you have farm animals, they're probably using them to talk to one another. And if you have babies, they're probably practicing saying comforting things to them. So really anything that is encouraging them to explore language, use it more, that would be something that pertains to the language category. I find that the mathematics category sometimes is more subtle in a lot of the toys than we even would realize. If your child is sorting things, they're kind of going through a form of math concepts. If they have any kind of counting toys or even building, like they are learning, especially with those magnetic tiles, like different shapes and just the concepts behind it that they are learning kind of sometimes can fall into math. My child is really young, but as he gets older, I'm sure that I can look into more activities that are more direct with it being a mathematic type of material. I'm not trying to force him to learn addition or anything like that, but just the idea behind a lot of the materials that you get can help them to start to grasp those concepts of math. So it's a lot easier than you would think. I mean, you're not out here getting math workbooks. It's specific materials and activities that kind of helps them to learn. Like I'm putting one little ball inside of this jar. I'm gonna put a second or whatever. Like they just kind of they kind of start to grasp it more. And especially if you're more verbal about what they're doing, you put one ball in the jar. Now there's 2 balls in the jar. This helps them to gain a lot more out of that category of math than you would actually think. Culture falls under a number of things: zoology, history, geography, art and music. Something that's always really fun is getting images and then maybe laminating those, and you can use that to even further teach culture in some ways, like heritage, or honestly even just like personal skills, like this is mom and this is dad. So obviously even the animals that we're using, that's hitting on culture. Montessori is not directly defined by just these 5 main categories. I just wanted to explain those a little bit further because those are what generally you would consider the 5 learning areas of Montessori. And so in order to know a bit more behind the kinds of materials you want to start looking for and the kinds of activities you want to start doing, it's probably best to just know the things that Montessori likes to hit on. And it just kind of helps with being more successful in a Montessori inspired living. Like, I don't know if I would have considered watering a plant a fun activity. I don't know that I would have explored that more if I wasn't really exploring Montessori. And if I'm being honest, I have found a lot of fun things through it. My son would probably argue that watering a plant is 10 times more fun than pushing a button and watching something light up. Like, he loves to be engaged. So as you move forward in doing a potential toy rotation and finding materials for your own child, just consider those 5 areas. Consider the organization and the space that you have for it, what you'd like to do, and just sit down and figure out what kind of areas makes more sense to you. And then you've got your toy rotation down. If you have any fun suggestions for rotation, organization, and even just ideas behind what you can do for certain activities, materials that you love to use in rotation, I'd love to know more about it in the comments because, again, I'm still learning and I'm sure everybody else would love to know your input as well. This style of learning and raising a child for us has been an incredible tool in watching my child thrive. So I will say that it's definitely not something that every parent has to do. I mean, I know that a lot of people out there have different parenting styles, but if you are interested in Montessori like we are, I'm hoping that this all has helped you. With that being said, Montessori is the style that we feel works best for our family and for our child, which means there will be some more Montessori videos coming up, so I hope you are along for the ride if you are interested in this area as well. Thank you guys for checking this one out, and I hope you all have a blessed day. I'll see you guys on the next one. Mwah.